Hello, everybody, and welcome to Write Something Weird. I'm Sophie Stern, and I'm here today with two of my favorite people, the Book Pod. Hello.
Hi.
So we met, I think, has it been 2 years now since the three of us met? It's been
Yeah,
a little while.
yeah.
Yeah, and we connected through book events and our love of books. And I most recently got to see you in Iowa just a couple of weeks ago, which it already feels like it's been too long.
I know.
Yeah, that was a really fun weekend of signing books and just talking and hanging out, and we got to eat together, and that was just a really good vibe.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and what the book pod is?
Yes. Okay. So, we are sisters, and we have been reading for a really long time. I have always been a fan of fantasy books, and so that was something that really kind of drove me. I was always kind of an open reader, I guess. Never really big on social media, but I always loved kind of getting lost in that story. So I've been reading forever. I am a little bit different. I always kind of labeled myself as more of a closeted reader. So I read the Twilight books, did the kind of like what was trendy when I was in high school, but never really was more open about what I was reading. It wasn't really cool. Kids weren't really talking about it. It
Yeah.
wasn't really the vibe. And so I felt more like, oh, I couldn't really talk about what I was reading. I didn't really have people or community. I've always gravitated towards romance, really anything romance, romantasy, sports, vampires. I mean, anything that if there's romance involved, I'm pretty much here for it.
Yeah.
So I, funny enough, being the older sister, was always more on social media. And so then when book talk kind of started taking off and more people were starting to talk about books, and it became more of this community in place that people
Yeah.
were open about what they were reading, I was like, oh, I can talk about it. And it really
Yeah.
gave me a safe place. And other people's confidence in talking about books gave me confidence to talk about books. So that was really, I'm really grateful that that happened, because I think that's kind of why we ended up here.
So I love what you mentioned as far as like kind of finding that inspiration and like courage and like maybe not really confidence, but maybe a little bit of like seeing that other people are doing this so we can too. Because I'm definitely the same way. And I feel like really passionately about the book community, especially now, because there are so many different ways that readers and authors are just connecting and finding that joy in reading.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're both totally right. Like it's really hard to find a book community, or at least it was before like social media and the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So, at what moment were you like, okay, we need to start like our own podcast, our own show? Was there like one moment, or was it a series of conversations where you were like, these readers need us? What did that look like?
I think it was a series of moments. I
Mhm.
can't say that I remember one specific thing happening that was like, oh, it's time. Um,
Mhm.
we had been in talks of a podcast that wasn't originally about books. But as the person who was on social media more, I really started to see a change in the book community.
Yeah.
And I started to see it becoming less about supporting readers and supporting each other and respecting the fact that people have different interests
Mhm.
and read different types of things. And it, a lot of conflict started to happen. And
Yeah.
so I was like, you know what? We fit something that I feel is somewhat unique, where we have Becca, who's more introverted, the OG fantasy, doesn't pay attention to what's popular, literally goes into a bookstore, looks at the books and says, oh, this sounds good, and takes it home. And if nobody else is reading it, she does not care. And then my side of it being more on social media and more of a mood reader, being swayed by what other people are reading, that we could find something where we could kind of come together and
Hmm.
build a safe place for all types of readers. And that was kind of our goal when we started, was to just be our authentic selves and try to
Yeah.
build a community that was more like what I felt when Book Talk first started.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's interesting to see like how the online book communities have kind of changed over time. But I really like that it sounds like the book pod is all about like reclaiming that and finding joy in reading again. Is that a
Yes.
fair assessment?
Yes.
Yes.
So, what has surprised you the most since you started your podcast?
Ooh.
What a great question.
Besides meeting me, you know?
Well, I think for me it was like we before we started, and kind of what led us into starting the podcast about books, was that we would always just sit down and talk about books.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you put like a camera or a microphone in front of you, you start
Mm.
to get a little nervous, and you start to really think about
Yeah.
what you want to say and how you want to say it, because you don't want to upset people on the internet.
Hmm.
So I think personally for me, it was how comfortable I started to get with it, especially being introverted. And just seeing the amount of people, like, we found our people so quickly, and it was so nice. And what we like to say is we're like a comfy cozy kind of like
Yeah.
pod that you can just come and talk about your book. So for me, it was just how quickly I became comfortable with talking about it and wanting to be a part of the book community, because that wasn't really something I was a part of before. So that was a really nice surprise for me, was how comfortable I felt once I got out there.
Yeah.
I love
I
that. That
love
makes me
that.
so happy.
No, I think that's a really great point because, I think a lot of us do tend to be very introverted, and it can be really hard to break into book communities or break into writing communities, especially when people are like, actually, I have my four friends. Like, I don't have room for anyone else.
Yes.
So I love that you are really focused on like building your own community, sharing that community, and also like helping yourself as well. Because I know for me, like when I first started going to book events, I didn't know like what to say to readers or what to say to other writers. So I had a similar experience in that the more I did it, the more comfortable I got talking to people and the more comfortable I got talking about myself and my stories and what I like to read and what I like to write. So that's been really fun for me as well. But Maggie, what about you? What surprised you about the book pod?
I think what Beck mentioned was how quickly we ended up kind of finding people.
Hmm.
Um, Romance Rendezvous was our very first book signing event that we've ever attended. I know, big, big love. And I had gone to see an author at a local bookstore, mentioned how it was really great to be able to walk into a single author signing event as somebody who
Yeah,
had never been to a signing event. And she was the one who said, "Hey, there's this signing in Cedar Falls, not far from here. You should check it out. It's free to attend if you want." I was like, okay, well, that sounds great.
yeah,
So we took a chance and we showed up, and I don't think we were there for 10 minutes before we started having a conversation with Polly, who runs the event. You know Polly, but who runs the
I
event,
know
and
Polly.
you know Polly very well. Um, and just immediately felt welcomed,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
how quickly we started meeting authors who made us feel safe and comfortable and were excited that we were there. And
yeah,
the people who have just kind of accepted us and taken us in has just been, it still kind of is hard to wrap my head around sometimes,
yeah,
just how wonderful everybody has been to us. And that's a great thing to be surprised by. Like, it's a
yeah,
good
for sure.
experience. um but yeah, that, I think that was the thing that I expected it to take longer than it did for
Mm-hmm.
us to
Yeah.
find people in spaces that we were comfortable in. So that's been really, really great.
Well, and I think that's really interesting because I have found when I put myself out there and I'm willing to like take a chance, I too am also surprised at like how fast things can happen. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important point to bring up because a lot of people have this idea like, oh, you want to write a book, it's going to take you years and years and years to meet other authors. Oh, you want to start a book podcast, it's going to take years and years and years. When the reality is like you can show up and be like, I'm here and this is what I'm offering and this is what I'm looking for. And having that openness, I think makes a big difference.
I completely agree. And it has been really interesting to watch those moments where we're like, okay, we're going to just go and we're just going to do it and we're just going to try and hope for the best. And I think we've learned a ton through the experience that we've had. And there's always going to be times of frustration of like, oh,
Yeah.
we're not where we think we should be or where we think we want to be, or there's all of these kind of things you're measuring yourself up against. But you have to remember those moments where you're like, okay, but this happened and these people welcomed us and it's really shaped where our podcast has gone and who we are as people and
Yeah.
who we are as readers and consumers. And those are the things to come back to focus on when everything else feels too loud.
Absolutely. And I will say, as an author who grew up as like a super nerdy kid who was not super popular, it's really fun to see your podcast and see that you are really elevating the culture of reading and kind of bringing an awareness to that. Because to me, it makes me feel seen. Like, oh, actually, this is kind of cool. Like, this is really cool to be a part of.
um I don't think you could have given us a better compliment because that
Aw,
that
That is truly what we want. Like it especially like kind of like you said, growing up not really having some place where you think that you fit and then finally finding your people.
yeah,
That it's been one of our biggest goals is to make sure that we are creating a community where everybody feels safe and they can come and they can talk about whatever they're reading, and no matter what genre it is, and feel like they are heard and seen.
yeah.
It's so important to us, and that's something that we very much try to stay true to with everything that we're going through.
And I think it's really helpful that the two of you do have like different approaches to reading. I think that makes you like very complementary to one another as far as hosting goes. And I'm sure that being sisters helps, but it's really nice to see that you both have different views of reading and what you like to read, and
Mhm.
both of these are okay. Because I'm definitely like Bex as far as like I will walk into a bookstore and be like, this is the book.
Yeah.
Usually I don't even read the back. I'll just buy it completely based on the cover.
I
Like
love
I
it.
know that's breaking like all the rules, but I love to do that.
No.
There's no rules.
Thank
There's
you.
no rules. You do whatever makes you happy.
So, what are some things that you have talked about on your podcast, or some things that you're hoping to talk about in the future? Because you cover a lot of different aspects of being a reader.
I think um we're kind of going into the next season of the podcast with where we're shifting gears a little bit.
Okay.
Um we kind of are following your lead a little bit where
Oh,
we really love the idea of having this conversation and
yeah.
talking to authors and readers and bookstore owners and cover artists and just all of the people who are involved in the book community
Yeah.
and having conversations about their experience and what things are like for them. So we are shifting slightly away from what we'd done the past two seasons where we just sat and had a conversation and recorded that conversation.
Yeah.
Because especially with the culture online today, we really want to elevate those voices and
Yeah.
bring back that sense of community.
Yeah.
But again, I love kind of what you've spoke on too is that it doesn't matter what kind of reader you are. It doesn't matter if you walk into a bookstore and just pick up a book off the shelf. It doesn't matter if you listen to audiobooks or have a Kindle or are physical. Like there's
Yeah.
zero rules. And we've had a couple different episodes and conversations where it's like, we don't have a book to talk about because we are in a book slump right now. And
Yeah.
life is really hard. And we're not always going to be those people who are do this book and this book and this book and this
Yeah.
book, because that's just not realistic. And I think that's another thing, is that reality of what it actually feels like to be a reader, and not just this pretty filter picture that has kind of started to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
that just bringing it back to like, hey, if you haven't read in 6 months, you're still a reader,
Yeah.
and don't let anybody tell you different.
That part. I love that. And I like the fact that you pointed out like there's different ways to read too, because it's sometimes it still surprises me how aggressive people are about their opinions about like, well, I only read physical books. I only do audiobooks. And there can definitely be like layers of judgment based on how somebody consumes their stories. So I like that you pointed that out, that you're kind of focused a little bit on it's all okay, it's all reading, and you can do what's right for you.
Yeah. And it's, if you like just audiobooks, if that's your vibe and you feel really strongly about that, that is amazing. But don't put down other people because they are not having the same experience. And
Yeah.
that is one of the things that has made me so unbelievably frustrated with what I've seen, is people stop talking about books. We are not accepting the introverts into the world of social media if they're going to feel judged for
Yeah.
anything. And so when we shut it down and say, well, if you're not doing it my way, it's not right, what are we
Hmm.
doing?
Yeah. No, that's a super good point. And it's kind of interesting because I've noticed lately so I'm right outside of Kansas City, and in my community, I've noticed a lot of people reading on Kindles.
Mm-hmm.
Like in lots of different places. Like I go to the community center to work out and it's an older crowd. And so I'm always kind of surprised when like there's, like a retiree who's like reading romance on their Kindle while riding a
Yes.
bike, and I, definitely try to like peek and see what they're reading.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little nosy that way, but you never know where you might get a book recommendation.
Yeah.
But even things like that, I love to read on my phone. It's super convenient. I think it's great. Like when I'm on the go, I can just, read a chapter here and there. But
Mm-hmm.
having that flexibility as a reader to consume in lots of different ways, I think is really valuable.
I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just recently converted Beck into some e-reading.
Yeah.
She's still very traditional, loves her
Okay.
physical books, but we are getting her a little bit more into that.
Yes.
Same thing with the flexibility,
Because
right?
yes,
Yeah.
it's so much more convenient to have a Kindle, and it's so much lighter than a book. Um
Hmm.
but I do like my physical books.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with carrying around a book.
absolutely.
Like if you feel more comfortable having a book cover on it, or to have a case or something like that for your
Mhm.
book, and go for it. I mean, some of those ones that are like crocheted, or like
Those are
they're
Oh yeah,
yarn or
they're
so
something,
cool.
they're so pretty, they're so cool, there's so
mhm.
many different kinds. Like, do what makes you comfortable. But there's nothing wrong with carrying around. I mean, the book I just started is about this big,
Yeah,
so I'm carrying that thing around.
you should be proud of that.
So, but sometimes it is nicer to just have your phone or have your Kindle or whatever, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with either one.
I used to really hate Kindles and e-readers and ebooks, and two things changed my mind. One, I lived overseas for a couple of years, and English was not the primary language. And so it was very, very hard to find English books. And my son got sick and he was hospitalized for like 8 days.
Mm.
And I was able to get ebooks and sit in the hospital and read. I read like all of Lexi Blake's and Cherise Sinclair's books, and just that was what I did.
Yeah.
But it meant that I didn't have to go try to find an English bookstore. I could just sit where I was. I had easy access, and that saved my sanity and my stress levels a
Mhm.
lot. But the other thing was, I talk to a lot of older readers at book events, and a lot of times printed books are very difficult for them to read. And so I meet a lot
Mhm.
of people who love Kindles because they can make the font bigger, or
Yeah.
audiobooks because they can read while they're like knitting or doing other
Yeah.
activities.
I think that's so important to highlight is there's
Mhm.
so many reasons. There's so many reasons
Yeah.
that people choose to read the way that they do. And it could be because the font is just too small for them to read.
Mhm.
Or it could be a pricing thing. Like you can
Yeah.
get Kindle Unlimited and you
Yeah.
can just read versus physical books are more expensive.
Yeah.
So it could be they just want to be able to read and not, break the bank. And
Yeah.
I mean, and then people who are impaired in some sort of way. Maybe there's a vision issue, but they love books, audiobooks.
Mhm.
Hello, they should get to be able to consume these things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And whether they have a reason like that, or if it's just the way they enjoy it,
Yeah.
why are we choosing to be hurtful and judgmental instead of
Yeah.
just letting it's art, it's beauty, it's emotion,
Yeah.
just let people consume it in a way that works for them, and then leave them either have a great
Yeah.
conversation, be like, oh my gosh, and let's be friends, or leave them alone.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you brought that up because in some ways, like the way that you read could be an accessibility issue,
Mm-hmm.
or it could just be a preference, and
Yep.
both are okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. I love that you're both so positive about the different ways that we read. Um, since you've started your podcast, have you tried reading things that you might not normally read so that you could talk about it together?
Oh, so kind of.
Okay.
So it kind of goes both ways. Is the first one I can think of was I actually had picked up a psychological
Oh
thriller
yeah.
um
Ooh.
just one day at a bookstore, and I didn't realize that's what it was. And it turned out to be one of my favorite
Mm-hmm.
books that I have ever read.
Okay.
It and so then when I had the ability then to talk about it on the podcast. So that was it kind of like unintentionally reading outside of my comfort zone. But then Mag as well has pushed me a little bit more towards the romance section of things.
I have.
So that I have come a little bit out of what I normally read. And, we've from one of those series, we've created so many great memories together and took a trip for it. And, it just turned out to be this really great experience. So there's nothing to say that you can't read outside of what you normally do and find something that you really love, or maybe you find out it's really not your cup of tea, and that's okay.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love that. I really love the idea of like trying something random because I think a lot of times we do tend to like pick a type of story that we like and just read that to the point of like forgetting that other stories exist. Because I love
That's never happened to me. I've never
really
never ever been like
okay.
that ever.
Yeah, I can't imagine you. Yeah, I know like for me, I also love psychological thrillers, like a lot. I think they're really, really fun. And especially if I've been reading a lot of romance, sometimes I'm like, I just need something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
it's I think it's important to at least attempt. And I got stuck in that for a long time. I was like, nope, romance is my thing.
Yeah.
Contemporary romance is my thing. I don't need anything else. And um, I have not ventured as much as maybe I've pushed Beck to venture. I've ventured a lot within the genre of romance, but not
Okay.
necessarily outside. So
You've gotten a little bit more fantasy in there.
I have definitely more fantasy, a lot more
Okay.
fantasy than I had
Mm-hmm.
before. But I would say maybe more romantasy. So it's still kind of, but trying to do fantasy books that don't necessarily have romance. I also enjoy like poetry, and then I will also read like mental health books.
Yeah.
I find those to be helpful with life and things like that. But yeah, I think it's important to at least try to venture out.
Yeah.
There's no hurt in it, and you may accidentally find something that you love and it completely changes your life, and it's sometimes hard to take those blinders off,
Hmm.
but I do think it's important to do so.
So I didn't read romance until I was in my 20s. And
I
I
love that.
I never, ever, ever thought I would be a romance author, ever. I fully planned to write cozy mysteries. I thought that was what I would write. And I had a friend recommend a romance book to me, and I read it, and it just completely blew my mind. I was like, this is so a happy ending? What do you mean? I
Yes.
I loved it, and it was just like you said, sometimes you can try reading something and it really is life-changing because for me, it kind of shifted my writing career and my writing journey on, oh, actually, this is what I want to write.
Yeah.
And it took, just a friend recommending a book to me, and I tried it and I loved it, and I never would have guessed.
And isn't that so crazy? Like, just one of my favorite quotes from a book that I love is, "You never know what can happen in a day." And
Yeah.
it's just that, I mean, it's kind of a theme that we've hit on a couple of times, is just put yourself out there and
Hmm.
try something different. And if it doesn't work, you've learned something. And if it works, it may be the best thing that's ever happened to you. So if you, I mean, look at you, look at your writing career, look at what you've been able to create and do, and the person that you
Oh,
become. I mean, that's amazing. So if she had never recommended that book, or if you had never decided to read that book, I
yeah.
mean, your life potentially would have looked so different. And so
Sad endings only. I would have been I
we
would have
don't
been a
want
real
sad
bummer.
ends only. So yeah, no, I think that's, it is crazy. And I'm very grateful to that friend that recommended that book to you, and that
I am
you
too.
gave it a shot, because um, I love that you are here and what you've done and the person you are and the author that you are.
Thank
So
you.
whoever they are, tell them I said thanks.
I will end, I'm really grateful for both of you too because you are just such a delight. And I just love what you're doing with your podcast. I love that in a time when the world is so messy, you are bringing so much joy. Okay, but I feel like no crying. That's a really good place for us to end. Where can people listen to your show?
We are currently on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Seasons 1 and 2 are out. Season 1 is audio only. Season 2 has video.
Okay.
And then we will hopefully be announcing season 3 soon.
Very soon.
Okay, cool. I can't wait. And I will add those links in the description of this video. Thank you both so much for being here today. This was really fun.
Thank you so much for having us. We are so honored to be here.
It was a delight.
Yes.
All right, well, have a good rest of your day.
You
Happy
too.
reading.